Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the edition of the Pan-African Pyramid Show here at Fairway Hotel. This is the People's Pan-African Parliament that sits at Fairway Hotel in Kampala every Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. and recorded of the same runs on NBS television on Saturdays from 4 to 5 p.m. We discuss matters to do with Africa, African solutions, African problems, African solutions. Why do you think we are where we are, and where should we be, and how can we be there? Ladies and gentlemen, the death toll from the crisis in Sudan has claimed over 500. These are Sudanese. According to the World Health Organization, as a tense 72-hour ceasefire was extended for another 3 days ultimatum on Friday, the tragic truce has quieted more than a week of intense fighting between two well-armed factions led by the rival commanders. The clashes in Sudan are between the Sudanese armed forces led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the Rapid Support Forces RSF paramilitary group led by General Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo. Until recently, the leaders of the two forces were actually allies. They worked together in 2019 to overthrow Sudan's brutal dictator Omar al-Bashir, who ruled over the country for 3 decades, sweeping to power as thousands of people took to the streets in popular uprising against al-Bashir. After the coup, a power-sharing government was actually formed, made up of civilian and military groups. The plan was for it to run Sudan for a few years and oversee the transition to a completely civilian-run government. But now, in 2021, Al-Burhan, who had become chief of the Power-Sharing Council, dissolved it, declaring he would instead hold election in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, the current fighting broke out between the army and the RSF as a result of negotiations breaking down over integrating the two forces ahead of the intended restoration of civilian rule. There was a disagreement over which general would be subordinate to the other, and how quickly the RSF would be incorporated into the Sudanese military army. The fighting broke out across the country on 8th of April 2023, with Sudan's capital city of Khartoum and neighboring Abdurrahman being turned into battlefield. On the face, yes, we see South Sudanese fighting. We see two generals, all of them Sudanese fighting. That's what we see on the face. However, when you dig down behind those faces, you realize that they are actually forces. And these forces are not African forces, these are Western forces. Number one is that America has interest in Sudan. And therefore, for whatever you do, if you don't take care of America's interest in Sudan, there will never be peace in Sudan. That's taken home. Number two is Russia. Now, Russia and America and China, these are 3 superpower countries fighting for supremacy in Africa. Who must take the resources of where? So, yes, in the face they're showing us that actually these two generals fighting, these are brothers, Sudanese. But in the background, somebody is every day supplying new uniforms, new ammunitions, food, and health care. And then after facilitating every state, they go back and say and start watching you fight. And then thereafter fighting, you kill about 500 people. They say, now, please fast stop for 3 days. We make a safe passage for medical care. After the 72 hours, they say, now continue. Which state now doesn't have enough ammunition? This one, they give you more. They go there and say, do you have enough ammunition? They said, yes. They give you more. So their job is to fund both of you continue fighting as they plunder the country. So we are saying this is another new way of scramble for Africa. Those days, the white man used to come here in African continent and say, please, I want this and this done. Today, it's passing through your own brother to tell you, please, leave, this is a forest for the animals. You human beings, you can go somewhere else. You realize that the national parks in Uganda and in Africa are more protected than the people. When you go to Queen Elizabeth National Park, when you go to Upper Land, people have been displaced in order to take care of the animals. Why? Because the animals are attracting the dollars every day. Tourists are coming to visit these animals, and they are paying the dollars, and you're not paying anything. So they realize you're actually less important than the animals. Now, when we go back to Sudan, DR Congo, South Sudan, these are one of the richest countries in Africa. The wars cannot stop until these two brothers in Sudan realize that actually they are not fighting for their own, but they are fighting for somebody who is behind them, who is funding them. But unfortunately, right now we are counting 500 Sudanese dead. 500. These are your brothers and sisters. Someone is funding you to kill them. But after killing them, you will still continue fighting and fighting. There will never be peace. That's in Libya. The other day, some Libyans gathered with the American forces and they said, let's remove Gaddafi. Gaddafi is the problem. Gaddafi is no good. He's not even anywhere to be found on this earth. He's nowhere. He's Libya at peace. The other day, the Pan-African Pyramid participated in a big deal in ensuring that Sudanese people get justice from al-Bashir. We all thought that al-Bashir was a problem. Isn't it? He's not there. Are you at peace? Bashir left you in peace, isn't it? He left you at chair. Are you at peace, you Sudanese? So do you think the problem is al-Bashir? Or is even the problem these two generals now fighting? Was the problem in Libya Gaddafi? This is what we want to discuss. Is this a new scramble for Africa and the supremacy power between China, America, and the United States of America? China, America, and Russia. I will begin with Comrade Daniel Barama, who is the chairman of Pan-African Movement Uganda chapter and a civil rights lawyer. I will begin with him, Comrade Mugarama. The next 15 minutes should be yours.
The history of Sudan, the people being referred to as dark-skinned people who are in Sudan. Sudan, historically dating back 7,000 years, being characterized by differences in religion, difference, because within even Islam itself, there are sects, Christianity, and other denominations that are not necessarily written about, has been a bedrock of conflicts and wars. But this is not unique to Sudan alone. Other parts of the world have also had this kind of experience. But later, you find that due to intermarriages and migrations, Sudan has been changing in color. But the people who populate the Sudan are not necessarily the dark people that we are talking about. Now, the overzealousness that has characterized some of the leadership at the detriment of other, for instance, religious beliefs, has had Sudan highly Islamized to the detriment of those who do not necessarily prescribe to Islam. A case in point is the south part of Sudan, which, among other reasons, looked at her people being Islamized as one of the strongest grounds to secede. And I was part of that process, although my mentor, Dr. The late John Garang, his belief was like the belief of the Chinese. One China policy is the same thing which Dr. John Garang, may his soul rest in eternal peace, had. He said, you organize an election, I'm going to win it fair and square. And I think he was right. Therefore, when you look at this Sudan, characterized by religious differences, characterized by tribal differences, dating back 7,000 years, which is not unique to Sudan, having undergone mutations like we have had South Sudan and then the Khartoum Sudan, the leadership which had to hold power by all means, particularly now coming a little bit closer of al-Bashir, created for purposes of controlling the far areas, because even the Sudan, left Sudan now, is one of the biggest countries on the African continent. In order to control some parts which were far away, and because the likes of the Dr. John Garang and the group were already fighting, he created the Janjaweed. Now the Janjaweed, under the leadership now, and then even of Commander Dangole, started participating in the mass massacres. In fact, when I see some of the writings on the wall that we have had the Jews being killed in their millions, and the history of the people who were killed by the Janjaweeds in Darfur region and other areas is not captured and remembered, I ask myself, who writes our history? That is why it is very difficult, by the way, for the hunted to tell a colorful story. It is already the hunter who will tell the most colorful story, because even when he is defeated and comes out with an answer. So we must learn to tell our story. We must learn from our own history. If not, we shall continue to glorify the Jewish history and the African history, which is going to be told in a negative sense, simply because we are not the authors of our own history. Therefore, from that kind of background, the Janjaweeds come in two forces. Al-Bashir, of course, is by the creation, of course, which the imperialists call civil uprisings, is removed because they said there was a civil uprising in Libya. I disagree, which removed Gaddafi. I have my own opinions, and those people who are not weekend historians, who choose not to cheat their intelligence, will tell you that there was no such a thing as civil uprising in Libya. It was simply the machinations and deliberate policy of the imperialists under the most imperialistic and vicious umbrella of NATO, who came and assassinated Colonel Gaddafi, and Libya has never been the same again. We know the rest, as we say, is history. It is therefore against that background that after the removal of al-Bashir, immediately Sudan, which was listed as one of the countries under global terrorism, was removed as a member from the list of global terrorists. I wonder what changed. Al-Bashir was indicted and he was supposed to appear at ICC. Up to now, of course, he has never gone there. They started therefore changing governments. The rebel outfits, including the current military leadership, formerly the so-called civilian leadership, removed then military leadership. Then on the parallel, we have the rapid response forces under Dangole, the Janjaweeds, if you like, has been choreographed over a time that we have had the Sudan in that turbulent state. Meanwhile, when all that was going on, there has been a hand which is not necessarily seen, especially for those who don't want to see, that has been directing the events. It's like you see drama, but behind the curtains, the director of that play is invisible, especially if you don't want to see it. But like we say in law, we can't pierce the veil to see who is behind the veil. We do not necessarily take for granted what is happening, but what is happening must be seen with insight. Now, the events leading to what we saw, or what we actually currently see in Sudan, are that in that atmosphere of instability, the powers, Russia, China, America, and others, have always scrambled to make sure that they take a lion's share of the lucrative assignments and contracts within Sudan. In the past, America was having a lion's share, but Russia came against the heels that China had established a naval base in Djibouti, one of the biggest naval bases of China in Djibouti. Russia has been making maneuvers. Remember that during the time of Barack Obama, he also established for the very first time a military base in Ghana. So there has been a scramble, renewed energy for scramble of Africa by way of establishing military bases and other forms of imperialism. There is a way it manifests itself. As such, therefore, Russia not to be outdone, it also engaged the military government and they agreed that they are going to start a naval base.
So do we say that that is manifesting through the wars that are happening in Africa?
Absolutely.
Because we need now to define what are some of those meanings on how you actually are able to see that this is America, this is not Sudanese fighting, this is China, this is Russia. We need to define.
However much they would want to hide, we can wear thick lenses and we pierce through their veil and we tell that, for instance, these kind of wars are not necessarily between the sitting military government and the rebel outfit of the Dangore, but this is a situation whereby the events leading to the outbreak of this war are a telephone call is made to the sitting military leader of Sudan in Khartoum that you have had, it came from the ambassador of America in Khartoum, that you have had a meeting with the Russian delegation, especially the foreign affairs minister. You have agreed that you are going to allow him to establish a naval base. Please, don't do it. The military leader at the end of the phone tells the ambassador that your request, if it was a request, is declined. I'm the sitting leader. This is an independent government, an independent country. I will take decisions which benefit our country. Shortly thereafter, we get Dangore bringing in more than 200 vehicles. I don't know under what vote, which were able to be fitted on submachine guns and other sorts of weapons. As a consequence, war breaks out. The idea was take up the airport and also go to the State House. If you look at where the war started from, the intention was to capture the airport and also capture State House. All of them failed flat because the intelligence, Russian intelligence was working and they outmaneuvered the American intelligence system. The war, therefore, is not because the Angolan forces and the military government in Khartoum have disagreed, because they disagreed a long time ago and they have been managing their problems. The people who are holding the two arms of the two gentlemen together and directing are Russia on one part and America on another part as a result of geostrategic differences.
Now that they know there is a war in Europe, and the war goes with costs, and therefore there is a likelihood Europe to have an economic recession, face an economic recession. And therefore what will happen, that some resources must be got somewhere. And therefore a creation of war in Africa for grabbing resources is the project right now in Sudan. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is very, very, very disturbing to see that the whole of Africa is quiet when many thousands and thousands of Sudanese are perishing. Now, let me give you an example why imperialists, they are using wars for economic gains. Let me prove to you and to the world. One, when they invaded Iraq, no, before Iraq, when they invaded Somalia, up to now, Somalia is struggling to create a state. It was called a stateless country. And then ask yourself, since the death of the former president of Somalia, where does the oil from Somalia go? When Europeans, when Americans and its allies invaded Iraq, Iraq has never been stable. Use your intelligence. Where does the oil from Iraq, where does it go? Because those are benchmarks for you, the scholars, to determine whether these are imperial created projects for Europe economic gain. You don't need even to scratch your head. Just simple calculation. When they went to Afghanistan, what happened? Apart from just recently, when those guys were so much. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, my question is, since this war began in Sudan, where is African Union? Where are the member states, the neighbors? No head of state apart from Rumamunga Ligaram has officially made an official communication about what is going on in Sudan. And there is no help, no humanitarian help, no military help, no anything. Why? You know, these are serious questions that we need to ask our leaders, and we need answers. Mr. Speaker, I want to credit this government for the first time, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
What have we done?
You remember very well, in 1994, when there was genocide in Rwanda, it is this government that stopped genocide. That's a plus. And actually, I even commend Mr. Museveni for that. When there was a conflict in Burundi, because you see, we are talking about wars in Africa, and who creates and who should be solving. Because you can imagine the United Nations that was mandated to protect, deployed in Kigali, did not protect Rwandese, and yet people were being killed when UN agencies and soldiers were watching. You can imagine there is a very big stadium in Kigali called the Stadium Amahoro. That was the headquarters of United Nations. But millions of Rwandese perished in their hands. Who told you that South Sudan belongs to two tribes? Who told you that a tribe is an agenda for transformation of a country? Shame on you! Who told you that Uganda belongs to Banyamwezi? Who told you that Uganda belongs to this Baganda? Who told you? Even there is no country called Uganda. We have just geographical colonial boundaries. We are talking about Africa. You are talking about uniting the entire continent. You are reading history. United States. You can imagine United States of America. Those are states. Each state can even be an independent country. But these are United States. United Kingdoms. These are people who actually surrendered. And they knew that because they are one, they became united. How can just a small district like Rwanda become a country? Rwanda is like a district in Uganda. And there is a head of state in a small district.
Maybe you also say, how can a district like Uganda become a country?
Yes, really.
How can a district like Burundi become a country?
Even Uganda is very small. Because you see,
So Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, that's supposed to be.
because this is all of them, even Sudan. You annex Sudan to us, annex Rwanda to us, annex whoever, create one. You can even say united by the East African community. Instead of calling it the East African United Countries, they are called the East African Community. Because the word united is not surfacing anywhere. And therefore, the philosophy and the ideology will be different. Because the ideology here of uniting Africans will be on the table. But now, even the name itself does not bring out the ideology of what you are fighting for. And that's why we are, lastly, that's why we are saying, you guys, you are becoming like houseboys in your country by allowing these imperials to come freely. Now, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, what is going to happen. Sudan is going to be a stateless country, and the rooters will come and take all what they want, and you become a houseboy and a house girl. So the only solution, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, I've been telling this even the heads of state. The only thing we can do right now, these regional blocks, is to create one country, create one currency, create one country.
You see, you know Sudan, but in Sudan it's not Sudan meaning the black Africa.
Land of the black.
The meaning not Sudan as in meaning in Africa people say Sudan is black people.
This is a topic of much importance to me, being the fact that it touches on my country so much. When I say my country today, when I refer to the word Sudan, I'm referring to the Sudan in the capacity of the historical Sudan, not the ceremonially divided Sudan. So when I say Sudan, I mean both the north and the south. So Sudan is a big nation. You all know that. And the problems of Sudan, when I look at the topic seems to say another scramble for Africa and supremacy war by America, China, and Russia. Meaning, it is this scramble for supremacy and those wars by America and China that are bringing about the issues in Sudan. I will personally consider this a secondary element to what is causing the issues in Sudan at the moment.
Okay. That's not the main issue.
It's not the main issue.
Okay. Let's listen to
Let's look at Sudan in the historical perspective. I've been in Uganda for 14 to 15 years at the moment. But there's a common rhetoric around that says Sudanese are aggressive people. Yes. That aggression, allow me to turn your attention to the book of Isaiah 18. It says, "Woe to the land of whirling wings along the rivers of Cush, which sends envoy by sea in papyrus boats over the water, God's swift messenger to a people tall and smooth-skinned, to a people feared far and wide, an aggressive nation of strange speech, whose land is divided by the rivers." You very well know that Sudan was historically called the Cush. So that aggression I'm telling you about is what I would love to call the inherent nature of the Sudanic people. The Sudanic people are a people that are even historically and biblically recognized being aggressive. Our aggression is, in a way, a curse that has been given to us by the Bible or by the God of the Bible himself. And it is this inherent nature that is in us. This inherent nature has evolved to an extent that we have become intolerable. An intolerable person, this is someone that is so principled. You don't know the effect of being a principled person. A principled person, just a mere breach of one of his principles, has adverse circumstances. So I'm diagnosing the problem in Sudan conflict or the crisis in Sudan from historical perspective.
Of who you are,
Of
naturally.
who I am naturally.
Don't you think somebody has taken advantage of your aggressiveness and is now using you?
I will come to that. So, gauging it from scramble and
You scramble for Africa.
the Europeans that we are talking about at the moment, they established two seeds. One seed was established in 1884. We all very well know it, that is the case of Berlin, the Berlin Conference. Another seed was established in 1970, that is what we call the Cold War, late 1970s, late 1960s, up to today. So these two seeds, every time they look for fertile ground. The fertile ground that I'm talking about is not only Africa, it's not only Sudan. The fertile ground is everywhere except Russia and the United States of America, including China itself. China can be a potential fertile ground where the two seeds can take effect, scramble and Cold War. The rivalry of these two countries, Russia and the United States of America, can consume any other fertile ground. So, coming to the issue of Sudan, saying that this scramble, or maybe those two seeds that I earlier told you, are the ones that have led to the issues that are in Sudan right now. No, I would say the issues that are in Sudan right now have created a fertile, the issues that are in Sudan historically have created a fertile ground on which those two seeds may take effect. I'll come later to how those people came in, but right now let me first break it down into where I arranged to bring it to you. One was the inherent nature. The inherent nature is what I've explained to you right now. So that inherent nature, you very well know that history follows where it came from and it continues from where it takes from. So that is history. The other is the political setting. You very well know that African setting or humanity itself has modes of setting, social, political, and economic. Our political setting in Sudan, or the Sudanic people, is a setting that is based on tribal and clan systems. That political setting has made us to be so much attached to our tribes and our clans, in that we look at fellow tribemates, tribes that are within us in the same country as adversaries, and marrying it together with the inherent nature, the fact of being intolerable. We reach an extent whereby we can no longer tolerate each other, and we end up turning into, how should I call it, wars, fighting, any of those. So that is the second one. I've looked at the inherent nature, the political setting, and then there are two things that I like so much, and that is the pre-independence quagmire. The pre-independence quagmire, you very well know that Sudan, under the colonial era, it was held by two countries. That is the United Kingdom and Egypt. It was called the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. The Anglo-Egyptian Sudan was administered as a condominium by those two countries. Now later, as they were about to give independence, that is where the plight of the Southerners started. The Southerners started to fight. Why? I want you to follow up with me. Why did the Southerners decide to fight? They had grievances, of which those grievances, they would not tolerate any excuses. Why? Because of their inherent nature. Why? Because of their political setting. They looked at the advent of religionism that these people are Arabs and these ones are Muslims and these are Christians. They looked at that, not looking where they could harmonize the lines of where Christianity and Islam could exist in one state. Sudan is not the first state to have both religions. But from where I came from, the inherent nature and the political setting, the intolerability was too high. And the plight of the Southerners started in 1955, what we call the first Sudanese civil war. That civil war was led by the separatist group known as the Anyanya. The Anyanya fought, and in 1956, independence was granted. Now, in the granting of independence, another issue came in, and that is what we call the sequence of power transfer that has left its effect till today. The first people who came in was just a council of sovereignty. The next leader who came in was toppled by a coup. The next leader who came in was toppled by a coup. There was an election. The next one who came was toppled by a coup. All the leaders in Sudan that we have had, almost all of them have been toppled by a coup. I will not tell you of 2019, 2021, and the one that is about to happen. 3 coups have happened with our very own eyes. So what am I telling you? I'm telling you that Sudan is a nation of historically brave people, of which their bravery has led them to become intolerable. In that when we sit down in an amicable way and try to handle issues, I don't know whether it's the biblical custom or what.
You fail to agree.
So that.
And when you fail to agree, the American and the Russian are saying is take advantage.
Those Americans, I will bring them in. Right now, let me first discuss my people.
Okay,
so
you have about 4 minutes now. So better.
So now, all those 4 circumstances added together, the inherent nature, the political setting, and the historical political setting, the pre-independence quagmire and then the post-independence quagmire, those 4 things are the ones that have laid the sequence for instability in Sudan. Now we go back to the 2 seeds I told you earlier, the seed of 1970 and the seed of 1884. These 2 seeds, they have happened in Russia, in Ukraine. They're actually disturbing Ukraine now, supremacy. The United States and Russia are fighting over Ukraine. These 2 seeds have taken effect in China. The United States and China are also battling for Taiwan. Now, Sudan showed itself, or it qualified itself as a fertile ground where these 2 seeds could be laid. How these people came in, why I call them a secondary element at first. These are secondary elements that have taken effect from the primary elements. The primary elements have laid the ground. It happened that during Khalifa Haftar's rule, the recent warlord in Libya, these Russians were in Libya. They never had concern with what is going on in the Sudan. But later in 2014, when they had invaded Ukraine, United States of America, because of the 2 seeds, their competition is always high. The United States of America had to sanction. You very well know that is the strongest economy. It sanctioned Russia. So Russia had to rush to Africa. Why? Because they needed resources to fund their people. And they needed resources to fund their economies. This is what every leader would do. And this is what you African leaders should be doing. So Russia came to Libya. Coming to Libya, they saw a fertile ground in the Sudan. And this is how Russia came inside. Later, Bashir, through his tolerance, he allowed Russia to actually gain connection with the rebel force, some rebel forces within the Sudan. And these rebel forces later established a stronghold. Now the problem came in whereby Russia wanted to establish a military base in the Red Sea region, and that is where America came in. So what am I telling you? Russia came looking for resources. America came trying to enforce democracy. China, you very well know China wants to fight US. They want to reach US in being the strongest economy. So, and then Saudi Arabia, and then UAE. These people are fighting because they want to push an Islamist movement. So these people, when I look at all of them, the United States of America, Russia, China, all those people, these are people who came by the virtue of our consent. Russia came looking for resources, and we told them, you take resources, give us guns. Why? Because we are naturally intolerable people. Give us guns, we want to fight. So what am I saying? If you have established your fence so high, there is no thief who will enter your house. Let's stop blaming those people. Let me tell you, once we establish ourselves, those people will learn to respect us. We just don't want to respect ourselves. Let's respect ourselves. Let's establish our walls. Our neighbors, what do you do?
Free your mind now. Free your mind now.
Before I dive into my submission this evening, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mr. Mahmoud Ramchen, the president of South Sudanese Student Union Uganda. It's a pleasure and honor being here this evening. It would have been nice if the previous first speakers were here. I would have actually disagree with them in a number of issues. One.
There's only one who has left.
One.
Mr. Kashaya is there.
You see, the late Dr. John Frank once says, once you have a wrong definition of a problem, you will definitely get the wrong solution for that particular problem. And therefore, I would agree with my brother Lee that much as there are elements of proxy in the Sudan's conflict, but most of the underlying issues are internal factors.
Internal problems.
Of which such internal factors are driven, to me, by poor government.
Oh, poor governance.
Yes. You see, when you look at the Sudan, in terms of political transition, there has never been a peaceful transfer of power in Sudan. And in that regard, there has never been unstable political government structures in place. Therefore, whoever comes into power through their own means will actually want to use that opportunity to either enrich themselves or maybe to also amend to the other group who have been misleading them for centuries or for some good time. And that is the basic problem. That is the basic problem for the Sudan. Here, I also want to take you back to the principle of the New Sudan by Dr. John Garang. The political problem in the Sudan has been the issue of political identity. And that has been the reason also that has led to the South to succeed from the North. Because our political structures in place by them will characterize our political identity, where there are those who want to identify themselves as Muslims and there are those that want to identify themselves as Christian. And for that matter, there has been a superiority conflict between either the religion issues or the race issues themselves. So my point here, and the reason as to why I'm here, is to tell this house that the issues in the Sudan are much more of governance issues. Are much more of governance issues because there has never been a civilian elected government in the Sudan for history. And for that matter, they don't account to the civilian in Sudan. They do account for themselves. If you look at how it is right now, it is very complex in the sense that it is even hard for one to mention a solution for the conflict. The issue of proxy, the America, the Russia, and the China coming in now, these are just the issues that are celebrating now the conflict, or these are the things that are driving the problems at hand. Like Alida said, if you have actually locked your room very well, you locked it very well with very strong lock, nobody outside will try to come in without your consent. Why do we allow ourselves always, okay, to be misused by the West? The outside factors are looking for issues to sustain themselves. Is Africa part of the playing ground for the West? And that answer will be actually given to us by the Africans ourselves. Is where they say yes, they will come and play with our minds or no. I want to give one example. Look at how Rwanda is progressing at the moment. How they've been transitioning from the genocide up to here. And the first reason for Rwanda to be where it is now is government. Okay? There has been a leader who is visionary. They know what they want for the Rwandans. They know what is good for the Rwandans. Okay? That has never been the case in the Sudan. So I want to use this opportunity and to urge my Sudanese friends and colleagues to get into our minds that our problems in the Sudan are governance-related problems.
I was touched by this topic today, and I chose to come and participate in this debate. And I have been enticed again by the two Sudanese, who to me told the truth about the African elite and about African governments. We love hiding our heads in the sand and blaming the outsiders. The problem is here. The problem is here. The whites fought a lot of wars to reach where they are. And we have the privilege of reading from their history, not to repeat the same mistakes, but we have rejected. When you study state formation, you will know that military is in the barracks. Once the soldiers get out of the barracks, there will be chaos down. In Sudan, since their independence, military has never gone back to the barracks. They ruled Sudan and disorganized Sudan out to today. even when they cut the part south and north, the south was also ruled by two soldiers, Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. And they are still fighting up to today because they are soldiers and it's their nature to fight. Soldiers will never make politicians until they get out of that uniform and declare to become politicians.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and the audience. I believe that the next days you will always be coming every Friday because this is where it starts to be strong men and women of Africa. When you come in numbers today, more than the other day, we shall achieve our goal. But when you remain in your hostels and your rooms, you will cry for. In this context, the African leaders are the husbands in the houses. And these whites are the people who come and take over our freedom, our wife. The blame is more about the African leaders who are not visionary. We have leaders who see Africa as a small bucket of their own goods. When you look about the civil unrest that is in Sudan, this is because of two strong men who failed to mitigate their misunderstandings. It is not because they are fighting for the rights of people in Sudan. No. It is because one guy from the Sudan Armed Forces led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group led by General Muhammad Hamdan Dagalo, they failed to understand their own problems. Now over 1,000 people are dying.
No, they actually failed to agree. They understand. They all have interests, but they have failed to merge those interests into one big force.
But these interests are not pro-citizens.
That's what I'm saying, the individual.
Their interests are individual-oriented. In Africa, in over 100 leaders, 90 of them are of the same nature. And this is the problem. That's why you see African leaders can be put into buses and go to Europe. Because they want handouts. But these handouts that they go for are from here. The minerals where they generate the money and everything are got from here. When I was watching President William Ruto, His Excellency of Kenya, he was hosted by a certain Pan-Africanist. He said, African leaders are being, misrespected by the European world. The EU is a toothless tiger because it lives on the handouts of the whites. So with the AU that is toothless, with the East African community, which has tried its level best by the leadership of His Excellency, we are seeing a lot of loopholes whereby the bodies that should bring Africans together are relying on the handouts of the whites. And after, we the wananchi, we the citizens, we are crying behind by 1,000 people and above dying in Sudan. Right now, I would have thought of the African Union sitting and making, rules and laws that Sudan, there should be a ceasefire and enforce it. But it can't. Why? Because the President of African Union or the Secretary General is waiting for some snippets from Europe. So with such loopholes, automatically the scrambled partition of Africa will be imminent. It will have to happen. We may not want that to happen, but it will happen. Africa needs strong leaders. Africa needs visionary leaders. For example, look at the histories of the Kwame Nkrumahs, our founding fathers. Here in Africa, we have only remained with one president, and His Excellency, the President of Uganda, who is trying. He's not 100% my brothers and sisters. He is trying, however much a lot of holes are within his budgets and whatever. He's being fought. So, as I conclude, with hungry with power-hungry leaders, Africa will never get peace.
Also, I'm very proud to be among Pan-African prelates. And also I want to thank Uganda, and I want to thank the leader of this country, because he put Pan-African in action in Uganda. Thank you very much. I think my son, he mentioned very important point. He talked about the problem in Sudan is very complicated. I'm talking right now, I think I'm the oldest person among all this for my children. The problem in Sudan is elite and the government. If you look to Sudan, if you go to Khartoum, if you look to the capital Khartoum, this is the capital planned by, you find specific tribes. There is no any country in the world where it's divided and is planned according to tribes, people, and nature. If you look to Sudan right now, people are talking about, okay, like a Burhan. The issue is not a Burhan. Since independent, this country is ruled by the people who called it on the 13 North, 3 tribes, 6. And these are the people, by the way, the problem in Sudan is prejudice belief. Some people they believe they have to be in power. No one else. No one else has to be in power. And I think it's very annoying. Now people are talking about Janjaweed. Who created Janjaweed? Janjaweed was created by the government of Sudan. It was created by Bashir to fight the African desert in Darfur.
You're right.
And also, I'm talking right now, I'm from Nuba Mountain. We have been in that situation since 1988. We have been in a war in Nuba Mountains. This is why I'm here in Uganda.
1988.
Since 1985, the war in Nuba Mountains, Central Sudan, the war in Brunei. And if you look to this war, it has been there in those marginalized areas. There was no any reaction intervened from the African or the world. When it comes to Khartoum right now, people are crying, people are talking about displacement, people are talking about people are dying on the street, people are talking, and yet as Africans, we have been there in that situation. Since independence, we have been displaced by the same government in Khartoum. No reaction from African country. That is the issue I wanted to say. In Sudan, we are not African, we are not Arab. If you look to the structure of Sudan, 90% are pure African, 10% are Arabs. But if you look at right now the culture, Sudan is controlled by Arab mentality, and I'm sorry to say that. And yet, we have a right to be in our own home. First of all, we are demanding from Pan-African. Let Sudan be defined. Is it an African country or an Arab country? That is the first one. The second issue, although I disagree with the Janjaweed guy, but this is a man also from, I counted him from marginalized from the West. Now this is a man who used to fight his fellow African. Now after they are done with him, they want him to go back to the forest. The man said, I'm not going to go. Because he used me, many of my people died. I have a right to be here because I fought. So from a perspective of view, if you look to the struggle right now, everybody knows Hamadok is from where? Hamadok is from the West, it's from Kordofan. He was removed by Burhan because he said there is a certain areas in Sudan is not supposed to rule Sudan. Hamadok was removed and the coup came to Sudan because Hamadok from the West. I think he mentioned very important point. The problem in Sudan is ideology. The mentality of spirits. They want to be there forever. Otherwise, the problem in Sudan is not going to be resolved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, our speaker. First and foremost, there is someone who said that if in Africa we have walls, then no one can enter in Africa. But I want to tell you that the walls were built in Africa, but they were overthrown. Africa had great leaders. if those leaders were existing, or by the time those leaders were existing, such chaos could not happen in Sudan. You imagine if Muammar Gaddafi was still living, you could not hear crises in Africa to such extent. We could not hear crises in Africa when we had other leaders like the Mwalimu Nyerere. They could have already organized meetings to see that these problems get to an end. Now the question is the problem we are seeing in Sudan and other African countries, is it a scramble for Africa? Mr. Speaker and the audience, I want to inform you that Africa has been in the game to be partitioned among the big nations, the big superpowers in the world. When you look at when Africa got independence, these people started creating what we call Cold Wars so that they come back in Africa. Mwalimu Nyerere did that the whites granted Africa using the front door, and they came back using the back door. So that's what is happening in Africa today. The whites have come back using the back door.
What do you think is the problem in Sudan war?
The problems in Sudan is both the foreigners and the Africans. But majorly, I can say 60% must be external problems.
I thank the delegation from Sudan and all the contribution from the elders. Me, I want to blame two people about the issue in Sudan. First is Omar Bashir. Omar Bashir did not learn from the previous mistakes. You see, in Africa, the issue has always been military men, the interference of military men in the politics. And we have seen that where military men have interfered in politics, this has happened. Either they were within the system, within the government army that overthrew through a military coup. That was one happening. Another one was through guerrilla movements, or liberation movements that came and defeated the standing government army. But whenever they were, after winning victory, they gained a sense of entitlement. And now they started thinking about how they can consolidate power. In a big consolidated power, they developed paramilitary armies. That is why we are having Dagaro's army, the RPF. By the way, Dagaro needs to be corrected because according to what we are getting, Dagaro is not that school, but he commands an army of 100,000. So creating a paramilitary army with an aim of neutralizing future insurgencies, because Bashir, like the rights, was scared of the government army that may turn against him. Why am I blaming Bashir? Bashir was there and saw Hussein Mubarak, what happened. He did not prepare for transition. Bashir had the time to interact with Said of Somalia and saw how Somalia evacuated into misfortune after the fall of Said Barre. He did not learn. Still, Bashir did not learn from Meles Zenawi of Ethiopia, how Meles managed to handle transition. Bashir did not learn from Mobutu, his friend, what befall Mobutu.
Was the bomb as a second?
Yeah, so the issue is Sudan is grappling with mismanaged transition. Thank you very much.
All of us as Africans, the problem in Sudan is our problem.
So, ladies and gentlemen, our aim as Pan-African is actually to tickle your mind as Africans. What is the problem? Who is the cause? Beyond the brothers that you are seeing, what is the other bigger problem? The bigger problem might be their interests of those people. So I want to say this debate actually simply begins. It does not end today. We are going to be reviving this debate every other Friday until we have a solution like we had last time. My name is Andrew Irumba Katusabye, Speaker, and I say now, ladies and gentlemen, from Kampala and Hotel.